is a live copyrighted presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for RadioLawTalk.com with your host, Frederick Penny, attorney at law. And now, RadioLawTalk.com.
Let's get ready to rumble!
He's back. Yes, I'm Frederick Penny, your host of Radio Law Talk, and I am back from a hiatus of a few weeks here with my co-host, Denise Dirks, and my friend Todd Cunin to my left.
We missed you, Fred.
Man alive, I don't know how you guys survived, but I am back full tilt, and I'm telling you, I kind of missed it. I was a little nervous not being
We
here.
missed you. You're our fearless leader.
Well, I'll tell you the fun part. I was like, typical Radio Law Talk in our normal studio is comfortable for us. You guys had the uncomfortable day out at the fair. Not that it was bad, but it was something different, huh?
Well, let me tell you what you missed and what we lamented. What we really wanted to be able to see the anguish on the face of Fred Penny, who always tells us about this diet that he's on, and how you would have reacted with all of the smells at the Gold Country Fair coming around.
It was amazing.
All I got to say is I did listen to it live from another state, and I'm telling you, I felt it just by listening to you explain how good it smelled.
And Seth had his funnel cake.
The hamburgers were spectacular. My wife and I split one, and I'm thinking, Fred would really like just one bite of this, just one bite.
This is intentional infliction of emotional distress when we talk about the law. That's for sure. This is sitting here and listening about food. I'm down 70 pounds.
70 pounds?
70.
Wow.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah, I got 10 more to go, and I will not again tell them who or how I'm doing it until they write me a check. And then we can help us at Radio Law Talk. But again, that's neither here nor there. No, they're not going to write me a check. I was just teasing. But you know what? I love being here. Thanks for having me back, especially our wonderful producer in there, Cal Hunter.
Hello.
And Seth Madden. Thanks for being our call screener. And missing, actually, he misses some of his kids' soccer stuff. Let me tell you about something. This is interesting. What a lot of people don't know. In fact, my friend Danny Alders is here. Everybody say hi to Danny.
Hey, Danny.
Danny's back in the helping Cal stare at the computer. But this is what's interesting. First thing Danny said when he walked in, he goes, "Oh, you're just pre-recording this?" No, this is live. What people don't realize out there in Radio Land is the three of us have no lives. We have given up our life for Saturday morning from 9 to noon. We are here because most of them, Todd and Denise, even some radio hosts we know, they pre-record them.
They do.
And you think they're going on live, but they're not. They're pre-recorded. Oh, I'm going to do it at 9 o'clock Monday night when I've got some time. No, we cancel everything on Saturday. We're missing football, soccer games of grandsons and children, and just to be here to help people out at Radio Law Talk.
Missing sleep.
I'm a 5 a.m. guy, so it doesn't really matter to me, so I'm up and going. Cal's missing. Cal's got to drive here. He cruises down listening to first of all, he swings by a certain place in Shasta County and does a drive-through, but then he gets down here.
I do not. I do not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Someone else drives through for you.
I would go for a friend.
Go for a friend.
No,
for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, it's the drive-through marijuana dispensary up in Shasta City.
It's okay for Cal to be here in the morning. If we were doing this show in the afternoon, he'd probably be raising, look, I got to get to the Country Corral buffet by 4:45.
What are you saying? I too am like Fred. I've lost 90 pounds myself. You just insulted me, Fred.
I'm telling you right now, these people don't understand our life of walking by food and looking at it. It is so difficult. I'm telling you, it's just, maybe we're going to have a Radio Law Talk about the laws of losing weight, and we're just going to apply some new laws and what or how you should be taking care of those people who are losing weight, and just stop putting things in their face.
You know what the most frustrating thing about weight loss is? And you don't realize this until you get older, but the most frustrating thing to me about weight loss is back in the 90s, there was, this is the latest proof. This is what you need to do to lose weight. This is what you need to eat. This is what you have to stay away from. And then in the mid-2000s, the latest cutting proof said that everything 10 years ago was a bunch of garbage. You don't do that, you do this. And then 10 years later, no, now you need to do this. And you're like, wait a minute. I've been trying to lose weight following the latest cutting-edge technology, and every couple of years you guys switch it up and say, sorry, we were wrong a year ago. We were wrong 2 years ago. And by the time you get to be a little older, you just realize, you know what? I'm having a Twinkie.
I've only got 20 years left. I might as well have a Twinkie.
Might as well have a Twinkie, because if you are what you eat, given the preservatives that are in those things, I ought to live 500 years. You
know what I like? That's true. You know what I like about the weight loss thing? Since we're here at Radio Law Talk, we talk all radio law stuff, you know. I love it when they say, you look great. And you know what my response always is? Actually, I look skinnier. I still don't look great. I'm bald, skin problems, ugly.
Do you ever go back? Well, okay, so I've only been doing this for about 6 months. What did you think of me a year ago?
Ugly, fat.
So here's law number one of weight loss, Fred, and you've learned this from your people.
Yes.
It is 80% what you eat and 20% what you do. And most people do just the opposite. They run to the gym, they work out for 5 hours, have a dozen donuts afterward.
Exactly right. A dozen donuts. That's what I'm doing.
Probably the best video that I ever saw to hammer that point home was this guy figured out, he's a nutritionist, and he figured out, okay, how long would I have to run on the treadmill to burn the, like 1,000 calories or whatever it was. And so he starts out running on the treadmill, while his buddy was sitting next to him eating a pizza. And he ate like half of a full pizza. So it was 6 slices of a 12-slice pizza, and he pounded it. He ate it in like 4 or 5 minutes while this guy's jogging. And then they did the time lapse of the guy jogging, and he kept jogging for like 3 or 4 hours on the treadmill, and say, see, this is what I had to do, what I would have had to do to burn off the same number of calories that my guy ingested in 5 minutes.
Wow.
And when I saw that was the first time given that object lesson, I was like, okay, now I kind of get it. Now, that didn't stop me from eating a pizza that night, but I got it. I just didn't have an excuse anymore.
See, there's a couple things I've learned. Number one, it's not that you eat. You better make sure it better be good in order to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that's interesting I've learned, and here's some kind of cool tidbits I've learned. Number one, and this is something you got to think about, believe it or not, they always say to yourself the following: food is fuel. And people are always like, what are you whispering? I'm saying food is fuel. And
yes.
if you remember food is fuel and not comfort food, which I love comfort food.
Oh, yes.
But if I would keep saying food is fuel, then I don't eat so much. But then the other thing that's important, here's another weird thing. And I'm not throwing this out as legal, or I'm not putting my reputation on this, but this is what I've been told. Within 5 minutes approximately of when your stomach starts growling, it is starting to store the fat that you eat after that. So if your stomach's growling, within 5 minutes, you better put a cracker or whatever what your diet calls for, put it in your mouth, and then it's not going to go to storing as fat. And that's what I've learned. So, boom, my stomach's growling 24/7. I'm eating all the time.
Well, the other saying to keep in mind is this: fish are friends, not food. Now, if you know what movie that came from, you have children.
That's exactly right. Well, let's get to the important part, the disclaimers. Remember, we're talking about general law here. Any legal needs that you need to discuss, make sure you meet with a lawyer, talk to your lawyer about it. And as usual, we have a great research person about today that handled our stuff today, that we're going to talk about Tesla. We're going to talk about Equifax, facial identity, and the duty of care of the universities toward their football players if they find out some information about their injuries. So we'll be right back. We're going to talk more about these parts of the law and talk about the exciting weight loss of Frederick Penny. We'll be right back.
This is Radio Law Talk.
I know you deceived me, now here's...
We're back talking about Tesla, Equifax, facial identity, duty of care towards football players. And we're going to talk about the latest that just pops up. We always watch Twitter and Instagram and our Facebook, whatever the latest laws are, to see what's the latest pop-ups. And stuff pops up sometimes on Fridays. And we want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, we're going to talk about our buddy Jeff Sessions is slamming marijuana legislation again. So I know, believe it or not, we have a lot of people that like to listen to us when we talk about the marijuana law stuff. We see our followers, and people like to hear about that.
Well, you heard from us about that back in April, and we kind of predicted on Radio Law Talk that there was going to be some tension between the state and the federal governments over marijuana.
That's right. Jeff Sessions, he's getting at it. So the folks that listen to us that are particularly interested in the marijuana laws that have tweeted us and commented and whatnot,
heads up. Liked you because you're the single guy. You have a lot of marijuana law girls chasing you right now.
Yeah. Well, yes. I'm not going to go there, Mr. Penny. But so Jeff Sessions earlier this week at a conference raised his opinion that he thought it was ridiculous for states to legalize marijuana, obviously. And a lot of times people that make these statements that are in politics, if you look at their ages, the effect of the 60s and the 70s is still fresh in their mind. And so that may be influencing his opinion. But
born at Woodstock.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, he made a comment. He made a comment that legalizing marijuana is going to increase marijuana use. And in fact, the studies in the states that have legalized marijuana have shown exactly the opposite. It has not increased the use.
Except among teens, and in teen emergency room use has gone up in Colorado and Washington both. So the younger legalized states, the youth use has gone up, not in
But that's not legal. That's illegal use.
But the point is the fact that it's the culture of the state, I think, is what Sessions is saying. Right?
Well, here's the other thing that I know statistically. Colorado's accidents due to illicit drug use or marijuana use have increased.
They have.
And therefore, personal injury lawyers are making more money. Well, and so, it's all about the lawyers. That's what it comes down to.
And the teen use, I look at this and I say this is the raiding the parents' liquor cabinet, medicine cabinet syndrome. So even though it's still illegal for teens to use it, if their parents now possess it legally, just like parents have legally possessed alcohol since the end of Prohibition, there are always going to be teens that sneak into mom and dad's liquor cabinet and take it and go out and hang out with their buddies. And now it is teens that could be stealing the stash and from their parents. And even if it's not from their parents, the fact that it's legal means that there is more of an influx and readily available supply to steal. And heaven forbid, how many, we have laws, for example, for selling alcohol to minors. I think it would be naive to think that marijuana dispensaries are 100% compliant with the, I won't sell this to a minor. That's going to happen. And so I see why it would be rising with the teen generation.
Let me tell you something very interesting. Our other co-host, Chris Rodriguez, that is not here, told me the other day we were on our way to court and we were discussing the marijuana laws, and his practice is increasing because of it. And these aren't just low schmucky type people. These are high-end business people that are hiring them. And he was telling me that each plant has a little barcode on it. And they barcode, the government barcodes these plants. And it's interesting how he said his practice is starting to increase. He's getting these big companies coming to him saying, we're going to start growing and manufacturing marijuana. So those of you know, Chris Rodriguez, Mr. Corporate Harvard boy that's not here, there you go. There's your marijuana man.
And this is what we called, Denise, just like you said, this is what we called here on Radio Law Talk back in April. Which is it's still illegal on the federal level. And now we've got Jeff Sessions coming out saying not only was it ridiculous to have that happen, but it's still a violation of federal law. And his deputy AG, Rod Rosenstein, indicated and just released a memo that they are going to start looking into the previous written policies about not enforcing federal law in states where marijuana was legalized. That's going to get a new look. And so I think you could see the policy changing here because we have a different AG. And the difficult part, Fred, you were talking about barcodes, is a prosecution, if they decide they want to go after somebody, becomes very simple for these people that are complying with state law and filing all of these documents with the state that indicate exactly what their operation is.
They're still even having problems doing what with the cash? They got to store it away. They can't put it in a bank.
That's right.
What did Jeff Sessions say?
He said, "I've never felt that we should legalize marijuana. It doesn't strike me that the country would be better if it's sold on every street corner. We do know that legalization results in greater use."
So here's an interesting thing that I'm bringing up, and why we've talked about this, is this rolls into the most interesting story that might be of today, and that's about Alan Thicke. Tell us who Alan Thicke is.
Alan Thicke, a beloved longtime MC of several shows, a game show host, and an actor in Hollywood for years.
Cal Hunter II.
The Canadian, a Canadian, by the way.
Yes.
A Canadian. And if I look at his IMDb page,
What's that mean?
that
What's
is
that mean?
the International Movie Database. This is it's kept by Amazon. It's a way for them to get people to order Amazon Prime, but basically they've categorized everything that anybody could have possibly been in Hollywood. And if I look at this, he has 111 credits to his name as an actor, 23 credits to his name as a writer. He is responsible for 20 soundtracks that go to his name. He was quite the musician. He has 2 kids that are musicians. And so his estate is, even though he passed away back in December of last year, his estate is still worth a lot of money. His estate still gets residual checks from all of the things that he's been in. And as usually happens when somebody passes away, there's a fight over the money.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, he actually has three boys. I think 2 from his first wife, 1 from his second wife, and then he had just recently married his third wife.
So what we're going to do is talk more about this Alan Thicke when we come back and explain why it ties into marijuana. Because it does.
Tweet us at Radio Law Talk.
Show me the money.
Go to the website, radiolawtalk.com. You can listen to the show there, and there's a lot of other good information, too. That's radiolawtalk.com.
So tell me, Denise, why is Tanya Thicke, Thicke, was it?
Thicke.
Yeah, Thicke.
Thicke, yeah.
Thicke.
Why is Tanya Thicke and Alan Thicke related in any way to marijuana? Why? Tell me. Because the radio listeners out there going, what does Alan Thicke have to do with marijuana?
Okay. Well, just for a short synopsis, the sons of Alan Thicke sued their stepmother, Tanya Thicke, claiming that she was going to try to take more of his estate than what she was entitled to. Now, remember that Alan Thicke had a $40 million fortune. I mean, that's a lot of money. And so they sued her. They filed a complaint against her, and they said she's trying to take more money, Judge. And what happened was her lawyers represented that she was not going to take more money, that she was going to stick with the prenuptial terms.
There was a prenup.
So they had a prenuptial agreement, which, for those of you who love the law, it actually allows for the distribution of assets and accumulation of assets and debts during the marriage to be done in a certain way. That avoids community property laws. So
Right.
that's just a short thing. I could do a lot more than that, but that's it. So she said, I'm sticking to the prenuptial. I'm going to get my $500,000 from the life insurance policy, 25% of my husband's personal effects, all the furniture at the ranch, all death benefits from his pensions and multiple union memberships, and 40% of the estate after the certain bequests were already handled. And she said, in response...
And the wife, Tanya, can
she
live
can
at
live.
the ranch.
She can live at the ranch as long as she keeps it up.
Now,
And
here's
she
the big
doesn't
kicker.
do any substantial changes to the ranch.
Let's set this up. Here goes the kicker. But
But drum roll, please.
hold on, Cal. Do we not have a drum roll? What, are you sleeping over there? What's the deal? There you go. But
Tanya had countered the men and said they were just upset because she would not allow them to turn part of the family's ranch into a pot farm.
there we go. There it is.
And the funny thing is, the judge took her at face value and dismissed the complaint and said they could come back if there was another problem, but right now there's no problem.
Yeah, and he did a thing that basically said you can come back. He dismissed it without prejudice, which means, look, there's nothing here. It's almost like it's not ripe because they haven't grown the marijuana yet, or who knows if it's on there. But apparently it's only like a 5-acre, they call it a ranch. I think it's a 5-acre ranch. We have to do our quick research on this, but I'm telling you, it's called the Carpinteria Ranch. And it's 5-acre parcel.
Carpinteria.
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 Southern California.
Oh, Taria.
Carpinteria.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Tells you that I don't know how to pronounce very well. I need to enunciate.
Well, I'm waiting for a development to happen in this case because as I was looking at this, I couldn't help but notice that there was a very large age difference between Tanya Thick and Alan Thick. He was 69 years old when he died. She was 41. Now, I have on occasion been accused of maybe dating people that were too young for me, but this is a 29-year age difference.
Or as they say in Hollywood, perfectly normal.
Okay, all right.
And it's Alan Thick.
But well, that's true. It's Alan Thick. But I noticed here when I was looking at this that his sons, his two adult sons, and tragically his younger son, which was a son by his second wife, when Alan Thick died, he was actually playing hockey with his, I think it was teenage son or
20-year-old.
But he
Carter. His name is Carter.
Yeah, but he playing hockey with his son when he died, which is no child, regardless of age, should have to see that. But his third wife is younger than his oldest son, and just maybe a year older than his middle son.
Attaboy.
So his third son, or his third wife, was right around the same time, and I noticed that his son Robin is going through a particularly nasty divorce to his soon-to-be former spouse Paula Patton. And you might have the two of them both on the market. Hey, stepmom.
Hey, what about you?
Well, no. I have no interest in ranching, and.
By the way, it's not a 5-acre; it's 11-acre ranch. But the area that there's the controversy was the 5 acres that they were going to put into marijuana. So that's how it rolls into our marijuana laws. So that's exciting. We got the Thick family having a good time, and
they're just in the thick of it.
Well, actually, I think they have a lot. I think they have a lot of growing pains going on right now.
Well, let's get back to this the part of the show that we need to do an announcement. Okay.
What?
We want to give a shout out to Laura Pratt. She's from the University of San Diego School of Law. She has done a magnificent job for us this week. She has done the research and framed the issues for us, and we are very, very, very happy that she has done so because she's done a great job.
I'll tell you right now, though. We always wonder what Cal's playing. What?
The theme from Growing Pains.
Oh, there we go. That's the theme from Growing Pains. Alan Thick.
Well, we play this case or no case every time the music starts. It's break or no break. What? What's up with the music?
Well,
go ahead, Cal.
He didn't write that. Alan Thick actually wrote the theme song for another sitcom that was popular at the time called The Facts of Life.
Oh,
But this is the one that was the theme to the show he was on.
He was a game show host too, wasn't he?
Yes,
he was.
Which ones, Cal? Do you remember which ones?
I don't. I'd have to.
Wasn't he on the Family Feud?
I don't know.
Family Feud's had several people that have hosted that, but I'm looking at the Alan Thick page here, and it says that for MCs, he's hosted the Emmy Awards, the ABC Olympic Kickoff Gala,
Wizard of Odds, Animal Crack-Ups, Three's a Crowd, Hugh, the Diamond Head Game. Those are the ones you've never heard of. But
right.
Right.
Those are the ones they played up in Reading and Shasta.
Never played
County.
them there.
He also appeared as a contestant. He appeared as a contestant on Win, Lose, or Draw, Don't Forget the Lyrics, Celebrity Family Feud, and Fear Factor. I want to know what he had to eat on Fear Factor.
That's probably why he had the heart attack, the aneurysm thing.
That
could
true.
be. You eat those scorpions, chocolate covered or not.
I couldn't watch that show. That freaked me out.
Yeah.
Well, back to Laura again as the host. I'm going to tell you, thank you, Laura. In all honesty, we do thank them all, and they all do a nice job. Laura, this one was over the top. This makes my job easy. So, Laura, when you go out and you apply for a job when you graduate from law school in San Diego, you keep this clip that Fred Penny, the host of Radio Law Talk, said this is one of the best. And then we've had some good ones too. Research setups that I've ever seen. And you know what? It makes my job easier. I don't have to go search and do research. And I just love it. Thank you, Laura.
Very well done. Very well done, Laura.
That's it. There's your applause. There's your job at Chris Rodriguez's firm, Louis Brisbois. Brisbois. So there you go. But let's talk about Tesla. Tesla's a car. We know that. And this is one of the most interesting issues coming before the courts is basically a class action that's coming about these new cars that drive almost by themselves. Now here, I'm a personal injury lawyer. We all know I'm a personal injury lawyer, and no one feels bad for the personal injury lawyers. I always say that well, I better be careful what I say. I don't want to say that because it's on the air, but nobody cares about personal injury lawyers. What's going to happen to personal injury lawyers when cars are stopping on their own and they're driving on their own? Half of us are going to be out of business.
They're going to lobby to be able to sue the car itself.
No,
they're going to claim that the car has become its own entity, and once it comes off the assembly line, it's like giving birth, and we'll be able to sue the car.
That's exactly, or the best part about it is, listen to Radio Law Talk, help us out, because I'll need a job in about 10 or 15 years. So let's push Radio Law Talk. But anyway, Tesla launched the Model S vehicle in 2015. This Model S has this autopilot software where it's going to slow you down, it's going to beep on you and tell you to grab the steering wheel. It's got sensors and radar up in the front and the back.
And it has a GPS system.
That's exactly right. And so it'll warn you to hold the wheel. There was a guy by the last name of Brown that this actually happened. The car continued to function, but it told him to hold the wheel. It was apparently telling him, something's happening. What's kind of cool about this too is at nighttime, it'll see like deer jumping out in advance because you can't see those deer way in advance. But anyway, at an intersection, his car struck the side of a trailer of a big truck that turned left directly in front of him. And the issue here is whether or not Tesla was negligent or if there is defects. Because let me tell you, there's different types of defects in a product liability case. There are three main ones: design defect, manufacturer defect, and a marketing defect. So let me briefly go through those three defects. We're running out of time. I'm going to go through it probably the next segment, but those are important to note before we even get into whether or not Tesla's liable. And then there's assumption of the risk issues, but mainly these design, manufacturing, and marketing defects. So we're going to talk more about that when we come back after the break. Listen to the sponsors. We'll be right back with Radio Law Talk. Call us at 855-LAW-RADIO. This is Frederick Penny. Tesla, take the wheel. I think we need Tesla taking the wheel, isn't that?
Well, Tesla would be singing the song saying, "Driver, take the wheel."
Oh, okay.
I can't do this on my own.
That's right.
There might be an issue here with a car in the intersection.
I thought it's the job of Tesla to take the wheel.
Yeah, the particular technology that we're talking about required that if something was coming up, the car could anticipate, then it would warn the driver, put your hands on the wheel.
Right.
And in this particular case, I believe the warning had come to the driver, Joshua Brown, 7 times.
Correct.
And he did not take the wheel.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he did pass away. I didn't want to, bring that up, but he passed away, and sorry to hear that. But an interesting thing about his family's statement.
That's right. And, Tesla's facing legal action. They've got a class action lawsuit they're facing. They have governmental oversight. But the particular family of Mr. Brown said, quote, that Josh Brown, quote, loved technology, and then released this statement through their law firm saying, again, open quote, "We heard numerous times that the car killed our son. That is simply not the case." So it doesn't appear that the specific family here is holding Tesla or trying to hold Tesla responsible, although several other people are via class action and governmental oversight.
And a lot of the class action has to do with the car going off to the side and the brakes slamming on for no reason. That's part of the class action.
Well, there's two different kinds of technology. The one where Joshua Brown was involved, it did not automatically disengage the car. So it didn't stop, it didn't turn off, it didn't do anything. Even though the car was warning him to take the wheel, it did did not disengage. The new technology that came afterwards, that's where it would, if you don't take the wheel, then the brakes are going to come on, and you're going to, it shocks you into trying to do something to take the wheel.
That's exactly right. So we're talking about, and by the way, I would never throw sometimes we've got to throw this out. Denise does generally family law. Todd is a criminal defense lawyer, and I do personal injury. Rodriguez does a lot of corporate and employment law, but
civil litigation.
Yeah, civil litigation. I do a lot of this. This product liability is up my alley. So, but the design defect. Let's just go over some very basics so the people out there can understand. Design defect is an inherent design problem. In other words, you build a three-legged chair. That's a design defect. Then you have a manufacturer's defect. It's something that was not intended. For example, you build the four legs on the chair, but when you manufacture it, you forget to put the bolts in one of the chair legs and it breaks off. And that's a manufacturer defect. Generally, it's unplanned. They didn't intentionally do it like a design defect. And then finally, there's a marketing defect. And oh my gosh, if you look at the little turtles that the kids play on, the blow-up swim turtles and stuff, how many warning stickers are on those things? You sit on 100 stickers sitting on them, and that's what basically marketing defect is the way the product's sold.
Was the Amazon would the glasses be considered marketing for Amazon?
It could be. It could. But see, the key of a plaintiff's lawyer is to find which defect, or if not all of them, that there's an issue with. And with the marketing defect, it's basically inadequate warnings. Mm-hmm. Yes, we know it's dangerous. They knew it was dangerous, but it doesn't matter. The people should have known it was dangerous. We understand that, but you should have put a sticker on there. And I've actually had cases where I've won cases similar to that, and where there wasn't a proper stickers, manufacturer stickers, warning of the dangers, even though they knew it was dangerous. So, so another thing that's interesting is, the question is, do you understand the issues before you use a product? So did you read a lot of the questions to the plaintiffs, the people who were injured or the families that were passed away, or, hey, did this person read the instructions? Have you ever tried to read instructions of some of the stuff that's coming from China that's written in English by some Chinese person?
It's
amazing. It's like it's completely not understandable.
It's gibberish, and sometimes it's funny for the comedic value of it if the consequences weren't so dire.
Right.
When you look at this, and just instructions in general. I mean, I've only had, most of the cars I've purchased or that I've driven were used, but I did have a brand new car one time, and I remember it was the first time I'd ever had a brand new car, and I sat down and I pulled out the owner's manual in the glove box, and here's a 300-page owner's manual, and right at the front it says, do not operate this vehicle until you have read this owner's manual in its entirety. I'm like, yeah, right. How many people actually do that?
And that's one of the questions the defense will cross-examine the injured person on, and that's kind of what my whole fight on that is. Mr. Manufacturer, do you have any statistics on how many people read that 250-page thing? And do you have knowledge that people are not reading this? Or what are the odds? So there's a lot of ways to argue that and go back against it. But it's interesting that you got to remember, too, and I'm not going to give them this is a totally different side note, government has a lot of protections when it comes to design defect. Like a lot of people argue, well, the road is designed improperly. That's why there was this accident. And there are so many government immunities. It's so difficult to win those cases. You do, and you can win them, but there's a lot of hurdles to jump over. So that's why you got to get a good attorney.
Really quickly, Fred, on that issue, if you're bringing a lawsuit against a private entity or even a publicly traded company, you file the lawsuit and you find out who to serve and do that. Are there additional hoops that you have to jump through if you want to sue a governmental entity? Do you have to get a right to sue or anything like that?
Yeah, there's generally to right to sue a government is generally, again, I'm going to be general here, going, that's what we do, it's a 6-month statute. Like in California, it's a 2-year statute. And by the way, the rule is never ask a question you don't know the answer to. That's what you don't, that's the rule in asking questions in cross-examination and a deposition. But anyway, so it's 6 months. And then you have to do a government filing. And you have to file this government claim form. And here's what's interesting. it's not people, I'll just fill out a form. Sometimes there's government claim forms. You have to file the right form. And believe it or not, when there are, example of, we had a drowning case, a sad drowning case, where it's a foster home, and there's different types of filings that you have to file with the government entities, and most lawyers malpractice that because it's a different form than the standard government form. There's multiple types of forms you have to file within that 6-month period. And then generally speaking, again, whatever you put on that form, you're stuck with. So I have people who try to do it themselves, and they call me and say, hey, can you just help me? Whatever you put down, just throw in the kitchen sink, because the government can argue, look, whatever you put there, you're stuck with. So it gets really complicated. But in these huge cases like this, it comes down to what type of defect is here. And I guess they can say it's they're going to argue all the above.
Yeah.
You know, I think they can argue all the above.
Definitely the design part of it, I think, is what they're arguing. By the way, even though the family came out and said that they didn't believe that the car killed him, that technology killed him, the National Transportation Safety Board, they weighed in and they said Tesla does have some responsibility. Now, this is a federal panel that has some regulatory powers, and they said that it should have been thought of by Tesla that the driver may not pay attention. The driver would get distracted, thinking safe with this autopilot type of a mechanism, and then it would get distracted.
Yeah, and that's why it comes down to a warning defect. Do they put enough proper warnings and let the people know that you can't fully rely on this and you better be careful? I think the technology as it goes forward is going to change that. But right now, you know, I would be arguing marketing defect, manufacturer defect, because, hey, you know, the software wasn't used properly by Tesla. And so guess what? The software company's going to be rolling in everybody. So we're going to talk more about this Tesla issue and products liability when we come back on our next hour.
That's right.
Tweet us.
Tweet us and call us. 1-855-529-7234 Law Radio.
See you in the back hour. The next hour. Good song, Cal.
You have been listening to RadioLawTalk.com. The following is a live copyrighted presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for RadioLawTalk.com with your host, Frederick Penny, attorney at law. And now, RadioLawTalk.com.
Yes, I'm back for hour 2. This is Frederick Penny, your host of Radio Law Talk. After a 2-week hiatus of playing, hour 2 is rolling. Deodorant is on. Air fresheners have been sprayed.
Mouthwash applied.
The air conditioning is cranked up. It's getting warm in here, but we love being here with the Radio Law Talk. Again, thank you, Laura Pratt from the University of San Diego Law School, for doing the research. We're following up and continuing on our Tesla issues, the Tesla car that is so technologically advanced, it's almost scary. Here's something that's interesting we were talking about during the break. First of all, you got to remember, within 4 months after this accident that we're talking about with the Tesla car,
the Model S, I think it was.
Yeah, the Model S. They modified the original version of the autopilot that automatically stops after driver ignores the warnings to put the hands on the wheel. So they modified it to do that. Now, people argue, well, there's proof. There is laws in California called subsequent remedial measures, where the government and the laws want to protect those people from fixing things that are wrong. So what would happen? Think about it. What would happen if all these bad things were happening and they're getting sued and they just don't fix it because they don't want to be shown to do what? Oh, that's evidence, therefore, that you were at fault. So subsequent remedial measures, depending upon the judge and how it lays out, could or may not be admissible in a court of law, that they went and fixed it. Oh, they fixed it, therefore they're liable. Maybe not under the subsequent remedial measure laws. So that's an issue that people got to think about. Well, they're at fault because they fixed it. Not necessarily.
So it seems like for fault, they would have to show not just that you fixed it afterwards. If that was it, you got a difficulty. It's that you knew something beforehand and you didn't fix it, correct?
That's true.
Right.
That's exactly
And
right.
that reminds me last week, and we're going to talk more about it this week. We talked about Equifax last week.
Right.
And the data breach and the fact that they had a patch that they could have used that would have prevented the data breach and they didn't use it. And then so putting in the patch afterwards, while that may or may not be enough for subsequent remedial measures, if they can show that they had the patch before and they chose not to,
Right, different.
they've got issues.
Different
Okay.
story. It's the famous, there was a hole in the parking lot that I fell in. Well, you can bring up issues. Did you know the hole was there? Tell me the status of the hole. Did you have people fall in it before? What's the deal? But the fact that afterwards, I got a picture of it, now the hole is filled up and patched, that might not come in.
Yeah.
That's the issue here. So that's what, our wonderful research assistant was putting that down, and I thank you for that research. But she's learning. She's a second year student. But
Second year student at University of San Diego. Again, outstanding job.
Yeah. So anyway, there were some other interesting notes that we were talking about this Tesla issue.
Just with regard to this specific accident that involved Mr. Brown, and it came to our attention, and Fred, I'll let you do the accreditation of how we got this information, that it might have been an issue with the sensor on the car not being able to pick up the presence of the truck because of a reflection of light or a flash or something that happened that affected the sensor.
The color white.
That's exactly right. And that was like when you're on Jeopardy and they say later, you got the right answer. Sorry, we're going to change your score. That was Danny Aldrich, our farmers insurance executive that knows the law a little bit, and he said, you might want to check that. We double-checked it. He was right. That's what happened.
Because
so is white the absence of light? Is that what happens?
Something to do with this big panel of white on the truck that it couldn't properly see. Now, what that was, I'm not positive, but that was a factor in the case, as I recall, Todd, wasn't it?
So in the article that one of the articles that we researched that was provided, there's this section where it says the company Tesla also altered how its system detected potential obstructions ahead, such as the white side of the tractor trailer that it could not distinguish against the bright sky. So I mean, if this was the white side of a tractor trailer and it's 7 o'clock at night where it's almost dusk and maybe it doesn't have an issue picking that up, that's one thing. But at noon, when it can't pick it up because it can't distinguish between the brightness of the trailer and the white of the sky, then it might be an issue, compounded by the fact that maybe there's glare also affecting the sensor. And so because of that, they said the newer version of the Model S emphasized a radar system for scanning ahead rather than camera sensors, because it's just using camera sensors here. Using a radar system, it makes me wonder if you're driving a Model S, if you're going to have that blip, blip, like radars, which would be annoying because you got traffic on all sides, but that's what they're going to do.
But then you've got, of course, you're so used to, you have those radar detectors for driving fast. You have like 7 of them all around your car. Beep, 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 beep.
I know.
Well, in March of this year, there was another Model S accident out of Texas, near Dallas, Texas. And what happened is that the auto steering device could not see, if you will, that the lanes merged, and one lane merged exactly into the side barrier of the road, and there was an accident because of that.
Well, let me tell you,
and there was no warning.
Let me tell you what it comes down to: a false sense of safety and a false sense of
trust.
Trust is exactly right. And I think people have to understand one very important thing. You still have to drive the car. You still have to pay attention, and you still have to make sure things are done properly. You can't just say, I'm going to let the computer do everything and go to sleep. That's not going to happen. It might someday when Cal and I are not on this earth. But I think right now that you've got to be careful. Let me give you a quick example. Here's the personal injury lawyer in me. I was driving my car, and I've got a nicer car that's got the technology. And I'm going to have to say, the first time ever it saved me, I was looking down at something, and there's an area on the freeway that stops a lot, and I heard the beep, 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 beep. I looked up, and the car stopped. And I guarantee I would have rear-ended the person if it wasn't for that car beeping me and automatically stopping. So the technology is a great thing, and it's super. It saved me from getting sued, by the way, which I'm sure they would have felt bad for me being a personal injury lawyer rear-ending someone. I'm sure the jury would have just been, well, let's feel for that guy. He's a personal injury lawyer. He helps us out. And so the other thing is but I don't do that. I still drive and watch and do the best I can to be a normal, caring driver, and that's what you have to do.
Well, what I worry about is the skill involved, because you learn by driving. You learn driving skills, and if you start with a car that does all this extra bells and whistles, are you going to develop the skills that you should be developing to become a good driver? I mean, I really worry about that.
It's like an airline pilot, an autopilot in a plane, right?
Here's the question.
When something goes bad, what do you do?
Yeah. Have you seen kids nowadays try to spell something? They don't know how. They really don't. I mean, everyone's like, I know how to spell. Okay, don't use your spell check, and let's see if you know how to spell. It's the same thing, Cal and Denise, and that's what it's coming down to, is they're not learning these skills, Denise, and you're correct. Not driving the farm tractor and the truck at age 9 like we were out on the farm with the 3 on the tree, and it comes time they're driving, they have no idea what they're doing.
I remember...
wait. Here's an I remember one. Get ready, Cal.
Okay,
you got the dump button ready?
No nostalgia music. Go ahead.
Just growing up, my dad and my grandparents were adamant that I have to learn to drive a stick shift, because if I drive an automatic, I will not know how to properly drive a car, because I didn't learn the stick shift part of it, and it gets back to learning how to operate and handle and understand how gears work and all that sort of thing. We see that now. It's just taken a step further to self-driving cars. Maybe we can talk about this next segment. It reminds me, last week we talked about self-driving technology in Uber.
Yes, and the Waymo case.
That's right. But
we're going to move on, but really quick. Uber has been sued by Google in late February for patent infringement and theft of trade secrets related to Google's automated car program.
And we got
more. We got more. So we'll be back.
Tweet us, Radio Law Talk.
All around the world. This is RadioLawTalk.com.
Listen to us from all around the world. This is Radio Law Talk. Frederick Penny. Man alive, are we having fun here. Again, it's amazing that we get paid to do this.
What? That is amazing.
Where's my check?
Hold your breaths. The checks are on their way. Oh, we're all sitting here going, what? What check is that? Hey, if you want to sponsor the Radio Law Talk, you can give us a call.
You know who does get paid?
Who?
Laura Pratt, our research law student. She gets $100 scholarship to help us with the research on our show today, and we are very happy to have her, and we're going to all autograph a Radio Law Talk mug and give her some swag.
Swag? She might get some swag.
And I promise not to sign it on the inside of the cup this time, so it can actually be used.
Right up by the lip area,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
Todd? Because don't forget, he's single. He's trying to write all that stuff around the edge.
Yeah,
so let's
thanks.
talk about Equifax, because we talked about it a little bit last time, and I wasn't here, but you guys brought it up. This Equifax breach is very interesting, and it's what's going on right now in the law. And it was hacked, a couple months ago?
It was hacked twice.
Yeah, twice.
We're finding out twice that it was hacked.
And apparently it affected 209,000 customers, or was it more than that?
140 million.
Yeah.
But my understanding is, and maybe I'm wrong, is 209 were actually the credentials were taken or something. But how many was it? I don't remember.
It was like
you guys did it last week.
It was 145 million people subject to this data
subjected
breach.
To it.
And that they could have taken, and you figure we got 300 some odd million in the United States, and maybe the majority of those were, U.S. citizens that were
Right.
subject to that. So
Right.
that is a lot of people. And bear in mind also that when they do the census for the United States, it's 300 million, but that includes kids and stuff who aren't even
Right.
in the credit section.
Right,
So
right.
if you narrow down the population of the United States to adults that are credit worthy, that have credit issues, and then compare that to 140 million, you're talking about a number probably close to over half the population is subject to this data breach.
Here's something interesting. Let's talk about Equifax, because a lot of people don't know about Equifax, and these are the statistics from 2016. There's approximately 9,500 employees. Their United States revenue for the year 2016 was $3,144 million. They netted $488.8 million net income for 2016. It was started in 1899, and it's based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Don't forget, there's also Experian and TransUnion are the other two. And so they call them the trio, the top three, the trio.
Right.
That's right.
And Experian had a hack too, but not to the extent.
Yeah. Equifax is in 14 countries. Its New York Stock Exchange symbol is EFX. It is a public company. Everyone, I've heard people go, "Oh, that's the government." No, it's not. It's a public company. The CEO is Richard Smith, and they had 57,000 consumer complaints from October 2012 through September 17th, 2017. There's some interesting things about Equifax. I just thought, I wanted to know more about the details and who they are.
But the real story here is, did they know when the executives started selling off their stock, did they know they had a problem? If they knew they had a problem, could they have fixed it? And mostly what I want to know is, why did you refer me to a phishing page when you told me to go click to this link? It was a phishing page until they fixed that.
That's right. They made a lot of errors here. First of all, they knew about the data breach potential, and they had a patch that they did not install, and they had the worst breach happened just recently, but they had a breach before. We're now finding out that it happened earlier in March as well.
Wow.
And they didn't inform their consumers, and there's just a series of things, and the 143 million people, they actually got and lost the names, addresses, and social security numbers for up to 143 million people. That's amazing.
I got that email. Did you guys get the email? I got the email, said, "Hey, don't worry, Mr. Penny, you're going to be okay. We're behind you. We're doing a 10-year, apparently a 10-year, they're going to do some sort of a
10-year identity theft
protection of some sort."
Well, that was recommended by the policing agent.
Well, let me tell you,
Yeah.
they're sending out the emails and saying they're going to do it, because they emailed me and said they're going to take care of me for the next 10 years, and let's see if they do it. Here's what the Senate has already responded to on September 15th, 2017. They're requiring Equifax to do the following. 1, commit proactively to reach out all individuals who may have been compromised. That's why I'm saying it's the word may have been compromised. Cal's pointing himself, so he got email like I did. Provide credit monitoring and ID theft protection services for no less than 10 years, which they said to me that they were going to do. Now, here's the other big question there, guys. What's going to happen to all these ID theft companies that people are paying now? They're going, wait a minute, Equifax is covering me now. I don't need to pay you to do it. So
yeah.
That could be a big issue. Could be a big issue.
Equifax will probably hire them to do that, do you think?
Oh, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? The third, offer impacted individuals the ability to freeze their credit. Number 4, remove arbitration provision. This is something we can talk about. That's very interesting. Equifax has a thing that says you have to take them to arbitration instead of taking them to court if there's any issues that someone finds with Equifax.
And initially, when you went to the website to go to see whether or not you've been impacted by this breach, you had to click a button and accept the terms that contain the arbitration clause. Equifax has since taken that off.
That's exactly right. That's number 4, Denise. Remove arbitration provisions from any agreement or terms of use for products, services, or disclosures offered by Equifax. And 5, and finally, Equifax must agree to testify before the Senate, FTC, and SEC coming up. And here's the interesting thing about it. Denise, tell them, well, let's not do it yet, because we got some more things to talk about, because we got 1 minute left. But Denise, later on, those of you who are listening, don't go away, because Denise is going to talk about what you can do after the fact and how you can get on this possible lawsuit. There's going to be a possible lawsuit coming up, or there is. With Equifax.
Our case, no case last week, talked about the bot program that allowed you to file individually small claims actions against Equifax.
I didn't get the email, but I did get one from a Nigerian prince.
There we go. That's
telling me that he could save my factory. You tell me that might not be legit?
That's legit.
Oh, brother.
Click on it.
Stay with us at Radio Law Talk. Tweet us at Radio Law Talk.
Radio Law Talk. I like
From north of the 49th parallel or north of the border, here's another Made in Canada hit.
You're listening to RadioLawTalk.com, and we have a caller. Peter's with us on the telephone, so let's go back to the folks in the studio. And Peter.
Go ahead, Peter. Unfortunately, we were. You're going to talk to Todd over here at Cunin. We're not quite sure what you want to ask, but get ready with a dump button. Anything that someone wants to talk to Todd about, I wonder. Go ahead, Peter.
Peter, are you there?
We lost him.
Oh, you lost him.
He got impatient. Probably didn't like that Canadian bumper I ran.
Yeah, what happened to the Canadian thing?
Oh, I just thought it would be fun. I don't know. So he just bailed on us. Did he have something fun to say?
I have no idea.
Who knows? So anyway, okay. But here's the thing about that Equifax. That's the big issue. The big issue is, how do you prove damages? What are your damages? Okay, so I might have a breach of some of my personal stuff. What has happened? I don't know. You know what, though? They have found that on one of my little Twitters, I think it was, someone was logging in India. So either we have a lot of India listeners or someone's doing something wrong, so I had to change stuff.
And I got an airline ticket charged from Russia.
Did you?
On my PayPal account.
Oh, nice.
Oh, my gosh.
Very nice, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, maybe, well, here's the thing, Cal, probably, you can get your damages, your actual damages are pretty easy. That's a no-brainer. But the question is, well, some people are trying to say, well, what about the pain and suffering I go through? But here, remember, although emotional distress damages can constitute actual damages, this emotional distress generally cannot be from just frustration and unhappiness, and that's an Equifax case it's called EDEH v. Equifax Info Services LLC case. That's what the court held. So the problem here is, how do you prove damages? Yeah, I want to sue Equifax. So what's the damages?
Well, it's easy if your identity is taken and misused, because then you have actual damages that you can quantify, and you know that's an easy case.
Sure, that's easy because you can get your actual damages. But what do you do about all the rest that, wow, maybe it's affected me because I'm emotionally upset and I'm worried? That's where the law is a little more shaky.
Well, the only difficulty I see with that, even if you did have damages, is proving that the identity was stolen because of the Equifax breach. I mean, what if somebody stole your identity because they got a hold of your checkbook or they got a hold of it some other way?
Right.
You know, when you're talking about 145 million people that were subject to this breach, right? 145 million that were subject to this breach, and you know that there are actors all over the world trying to steal your identity. If you have, 10 different people that are trying to steal your identity and you're part of this large group that was subject to this breach, how do you know that when your identity is stolen that it was because of the Equifax breach versus maybe some other type of breach where they got your identity from some other actor? I think that they would have to prove that it came from what they did, and the pool is so large.
Right.
It's so large that, I mean, you're saying that nearly everybody is subject to it now, the effects of this breach.
Here's another question.
It's difficult. It raises a lot of crazy issues.
I love that. Here's another one it raises. How long is the liability? Because these things have a way of bouncing around, right? Like a bad YouTube video that keeps coming up on your email.
Right.
I mean, how long would they be on the hook for this damage that could occur as the result of the breach?
Or evidence of being on top of a roof when you're a young gal. That goes on forever.
You'll never get away from
You
that.
can't get away from it, or stealing a newspaper box.
I mean,
you know?
look, if there were pictures of the roof thing, then you would be able to trace that back because it would have in the bottom of it this photo taken by Cal Hunter.
She's
and you would
ignoring you.
know that it came back to Cal.
She's
But-
completely ignoring our discussions.
about being on the roof.
Everybody, go to our YouTube
My mom,
page.
my mom is so mad at me for telling that story.
Go to our YouTube video and see Denise ignoring it and highlighting discussions about Equifax. Those of you who have not listened to our prior shows, you need to go back and listen to our prior shows about Denise when we all confessed about some naughty things we've done back in the past.
I was absent that day.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, though, I was absent that day because I was camping with my family up in Northern California, right? And I used my debit card when I was camping with my family up in Northern California. I got back on a Saturday night. At about 10 o'clock at night on Saturday, I get a call from the credit monitoring company saying, "Hey, did you make a purchase at Home Depot in Redding, California for $700? No, I did not. I did not. Somebody on that trip fished or got my debit information.
Skimmed you somehow.
Skimmed me somehow, and luckily I was able to get the charges reversed. Turns out there was about $1,200 worth of charges that were made that fast.
Well, you know what? I know who it is. I investigated. It was Cal Hunter.
It was Cal. Well, it was the marijuana dispensary that was the dead giveaway.
Yeah, well, the thing is, don't you know when you go to the bathroom, I see Cal running around and grabbing your wallet sitting over here.
That
Did you
could
see
be.
that?
RFID reader, just reading. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. Just security check.
Yeah, but you know, Cal, you did bring up something about Equifax that really, I mean, it gave me one of those moments, and that's when you were talking about the executives selling off stock.
Yes.
And, you know, we know, based on our conversation, Denise, last week, that Equifax waited 6 weeks from knowledge of the breach to when they made the public aware that the breach occurred.
That was the second breach.
And that was the second breach. How many executives and how much stock was sold by executives in the 6 weeks from the time they first learned of any breach, whether it's the first one or the second one, until they made any public statement about breaches? That's what I want to know, and that may be why the SEC is involved.
And on the stocks saying, well, there's nothing to see here. They didn't know about this, which if you and I, if there's
my gosh.
you got to be kidding me.
Oh.
And that raises the question, other than the SEC, because they're a publicly traded company, who regulates a company like Equifax?
Well, here's the best part about it. Let me tell you, if you have a breach of 143 million lives and you're the CEO and president, the phone's ringing in the middle of the night from the computer guys going, "Hey, we got a problem." I'm telling you. Well, I didn't know for 6 weeks. Really? I didn't.
Of course,
know.
I sold a few million shares of stock in the meantime.
I
but
was just
yeah.
thinking about it. But here's again, we're going to jump back to this problem. The court will not decide a case, and this is a quote, without the plaintiff showing that the credit reporting agency's acts constitute actual damage under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. That's the problem. In fact, there's a case that held, though, that the plaintiff suffering loss of sleep, nervousness, frustration, and mental anguish doesn't matter. So guess what? You better figure out what your losses are on your Equifax. How do we do that? Now, Denise has got the answer for you guys sitting out there waiting to know what you can do if you feel you've been wrong. Denise.
No pressure, Denise. No pressure whatsoever.
Well, if you have actual damage, you can actually show that this breach caused you damage and thieves took your information from this breach. You can bring an individual lawsuit. The hardest part about bringing an individual lawsuit is proving those damages. That, I mean, and especially in today's world, if they get your credit cards, you only have liability up to $50, right? If you have somebody steal your credit card, you just do a fraud report, and your liability is $50. So it's not big numbers here, and it's hard to prove. There's also the class actions route. Mm-hmm. There already are 50 cases now that are going ahead, and again, how are you as a consumer going to benefit from the class action suit?
You're going to get $9, and the lawyers are going to make millions.
Yeah,
How am I getting involved? I got to get involved in that. My DC office, I got to get involved with that.
The Target was also hacked, and Target agreed to pay $18.5 million after the hackers stole the personal information, up to 40 million consumers for credit and debit cards in 2013. So they actually paid, but it doesn't say, and you don't really know the end result. Like, what did the consumers get?
Nothing. I'm telling you, you take the attorney's fees, the costs, and then you divide the 40 million people by what's left over, which is about 10. I'm not trying to rip on lawyers. I do this for a living. And then you do need the lawyers to do this, otherwise nothing would have happened.
And then there's the small claims option. So we've got the gentleman who created the bot that you can sue in your small claims court, and I think there you'd have to argue strict liability. I don't know what else you would argue, but if you can prove damages, you have to prove them in small claims. But you got that option where you get to keep most of the money or all of the money and not have to share with lawyers.
How do they do that? I mean, you're talking about it.
They fill out a small claims lawsuit.
But where's this bot? Where do they do? This go to small claims? And
we talked about it last week.
It's posted on our website.
Good.
Yeah. We have the bot on the website now.
Or on our Facebook page.
Yes.
Or talk to Seth. Seth, make sure it's on our Facebook page or something. That's Seth's job. He'll get it up for you.
Okay. We've got that information for you if you need to, and you can call us. At Radio Law Talk, tweet us. Call us at 855-LAW-RADIO. That's 529-7234. We want to hear from you.
We'll be right back. We're going to talk about defecating.
What?
We are.
Well, that's a great topic you don't hear about in court very often. That's coming up next on RadioLawTalk.com.
Doesn't matter, we're back. And no, I did not say the word defamation. I did say desiccation.
Desiccation or defecation?
Oh, all the above.
Yes.
We defamed, defecated, and
yes,
whatever starts with a D.
We have a great case of defecation of character out of Colorado.
But no, we did not talk. It really is talking about the pooping case.
It is. It is.
Yes. We're not telling you. Cal, you didn't know about this? We didn't bring this up to you. Here it comes.
And this is the part of the show.
We can't dump. We don't have to dump this, do we? This is legal, right?
No. We want to dump this on Cal at this point.
No, dump as in hit the erase button. Legalities. I think we're okay.
I'm going to play the open. I don't believe you're telling me the truth. So here we go.
Okay.
Now it's time to play Case or No Case.
All right. Okay.
I don't think there's a case about defecation.
Okay, no, here it comes.
We have no hermetically sealed envelopes or poop bags this week, but this is what has gone on, and this has made national news.
We should ask Cal. Is it case or no case, Cal? Listen up.
Listen up.
I've already told you I don't believe you, but go ahead.
Okay, so Cal, wait a minute, let's do this. Cal and Seth, we're going to ask them case or no case. Here we go.
So there is a serial pooper. And not
better known as an SP.
Yes. A serial pooper in Colorado Springs has been caught on surveillance camera. A female jogger, and, based upon the pictures, this isn't somebody that looks like they're new to jogging. This is something they do, has over the last few weeks, on several occasions, left a, not culinary, we'll call it a culinary gift on the front.
Stop now.
No, on the front lawn of these people in Colorado Springs, and it's gotten to be where it's almost like clockwork. The kids have seen it occur.
The kids have seen it. She's done it in front of the kids.
She's done it.
But she has cleaned up. She brings her little tissue.
Oh, yeah.
She does. But, when you gotta go, you gotta
she
go.
She brings a doggy bag?
Yeah,
she does.
For herself.
Rumor has it she is dating a bear who lives in the woods. and so...
The answer is yeah.
The issue here
Stop. Seth, would you turn the air on? I'm serious. It's getting so hot in here.
Now?
Go turn the air on. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Bear in the Woods.
So the issue here is, what sort of liability does this person face for this public act of defecation? And
criminal liability
criminal
or civil liability?
criminal
we're
or
gonna do-
civil. I mean, we could
What's
we could
the
talk
damages?
all sorts of
What's the
liability.
damages?
You know, we could check this under or put it under things that you will never be able to unsee. The poor children in this case, you know, and depending on the ages of the children, perhaps teaching them inappropriate public behavior.
This is no fun.
Is there a picture of this person?
Yes.
Yes.
There is.
Pull it up on the internet.
There is a picture. I'll try to pull this one up here. You know, if you just type in Colorado, Colorado,
Or ADO.
I'm just going to put
Good catch.
POOPER. There she
There it is. Okay, click it on.
And, you know, it's dark-haired.
She's actually just looks like a normal jogger person.
She does.
Here's my question. Why did she choose their lawn? Is this a personal thing?
Well, it's apparently she has a routine, and her routine involves
When you gotta go, you
jogging.
gotta go.
Well, there's this fertilizer called Charmin, and apparently they use it on the lawn. And you know, you don't want to get a bad fescue, because if you get a bad fescue, that can rip and tear.
So do you do
All right.
like the dogs do and squat and crawl while you?
You sort of pull yourself across the lawn there, which oddly enough gives the forensic scientist direction of travel, and you're able to figure this out. But
There's going to be DNA involved.
well, there's going to be all sorts of
Who's going to
DNA.
collect it?
Yeah, that's the plaintiff's lawyers.
They're probably able to track her down by what restaurants that she has eaten at, based upon the contents of the evidence left behind.
But you're saying when the bowel calls and it's time to hit the...
That's it. The thing is, she has her doggy bag. So what's the problem?
That's what
Well,
Why is there a case?
public
There's no case.
nudity.
Exactly.
Defecating in public.
There
How do you
go.
know there's nudity? How do you know?
She had to pull her pants down.
How do you know she pulled her pants down?
Unless she's wearing a
kids
certain
are.
type of mesh jogging shorts that
Oh,
have
no.
straining action.
No, or a zipper in it. No.
Yeah, there could be a
This is going to have
Spanx
to.
with the opening.
Yes, this is going to have to involve some sort of nudity here. But
Okay.
so this is
I
what
didn't know when I went to the bathroom I was nude, but that's
Well-
okay.
Well, certain parts of your body have to be uncovered, or you've got a big laundry problem.
That's right. You know the
You guys, we reached a new low.
Radio Law Talk.
We've got farting YouTube shows, and now we're talking about public defecation.
the underwear's shot, but I might be able to save the pants. So when I look at this,
Oh
here,
my gosh.
what are the potential liability? What potential liability is she facing? So in California, we have indecent exposure, which
Exactly
is
right.
Penal Code Section 314. Now, the kicker here is a conviction for 314. You got to register as a sex offender for the rest of your life.
Really?
Yes, but this is why this would not be a 314 violation.
Got to be a misdemeanor. huh?
Because and 314 is a misdemeanor.
Oh, really?
Yes, but this is why it wouldn't be, because it's not just exposing a part of you that would be deemed nude, which is defined as the female breast or the genitalia or buttocks of either
Wait,
gender.
time out. Right? Have you been to a swim meet before with those fast swimmers? The buttocks? Really?
But listen.
The buttocks.
So there are elements here. The first element is that has to be exposed.
You haven't been
But
to
the
water
s-
park lately,
But
now,
the
I gotta say.
second element, well, not since the restraining orders went in place. The second element for a violation of 314 goes to the purpose of the display. It has to be for the arousal of either the person or somebody else. So in a water park at a swim meet, they show things, but it's not for any sort of sexual arousal of anybody. It's
Going
just
to the
for that.
bathrooms for sexual
But-
arousal?
and the reason this would not be a violation of 314 in California is because you'd have a hard time proving that this was done for the arousal of either the
Gotcha.
jogger or anybody else. So it's not a 314.
Unless you have a
Okay.
pooping fetish.
However, you can't show it in a movie.
Well, you can't, but there's a lot of things you can't show in movies.
I'm just saying it's got some. It's just.
We're getting ready for case or no case. You have to be quiet in there because you cannot give us your answer
Okay,
yet.
sir.
But here's the thing with
You can
this, though.
consult with Seth right now.
This is what there's the difference between the state codes for criminalization and then what each individual municipality chooses to make illegal. And in Colorado Springs, they have a specific municipal code. It's 9.6.105 says it is unlawful for any person to urinate or defecate upon any public place or place within public view other than a toilet facility provided for the purpose.
Time. What about on my ranch?
Well, if your ranch is in Colorado Springs,
I don't know.
and if you're on your ranch and it is in the public view of somebody else, this would be ostensibly a
Okay, we
violation.
got 1 minute left. We have to stop. We have case or no case, Cal and Seth.
Well, I was talking to Seth. He just went to the bathroom. So,
Next time, if you
go
could
to the
leave the room, Seth, that would be great.
I say yes, Seth. What do you say? Yeah, we say it's a case.
It's a case.
All right. Remember, we talk about the generalities of the law. We don't do anything specific or give any specific advice.
This was way too specific.
Go get a lawyer.
If you need legal advice, get a very competent lawyer. And everybody
Sounds like she
needs a
needs
lawyer
one.
at
Sounds
some
like
point.
she needs one.
I want to end with this one thing. In Denver, Colorado, now this was Colorado Springs. In Denver, Colorado, in May of this year, they removed the prohibition for public defecation because it was having an impact on immigrants, because the status of the law prior to the removal caused it to be a misdemeanor and was leading to deportation. So the city council in Denver removed the prohibition.
Wow.
And my thinking is this person in Colorado Springs may have seen that and thought, it's legal now, not realizing that was a municipal code specific only to Denver and did not apply statewide.
Well, all I got to say is we're going to end this hour on the pooping in Colorado. Next hour, join us. We're going to talk about Face ID recognition. Call us at 855 Law Radio or tweet us at Radio Law Talk. See you next hour.
You have been listening to RadioLawTalk.com, a copyrighted presentation of Radio Law Talk Incorporated. The following is a live copyrighted presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for RadioLawTalk.com with your host, Frederick Penny, attorney at law. And now, RadioLawTalk.com.
I'm back. This is Frederick Penny with my host, Denise Dirks, and the kind of my host, Todd Cunin. We really like you, Todd. And
Kind of my host.
no, he is. I'm just teasing. I've been away for a while, and man, is it good to be back. This is our third hour. There's a lot of you that are joining us live now. Thanks to Cal Hunter sitting behind the glass,
Hello.
our producer, and Seth for our taking care of all of our call screening. There's a lot to talk about this hour, and those of you who have joined us live, you just missed one of the best segments of Radio Law Talk of all time. So when you have time, go back tomorrow and go to the podcast and listen to second hour, last segment about pooping laws.
Yes.
You missed it. It was a phenomenal segment about laws of going to the bathroom on people's lawns and whether or not it's okay so long as you have your doggy bags.
We promise the segment will not stick to your fur.
That's exactly right.
If you properly groom.
That's exactly right. It was interesting. So get back there and listen to it. It is the fun. And I told Seth, our call screener, I said, you clip that and you throw that on our... Look at Todd can't even... They can't even talk now. I just wish you guys were there, the live people, to hear this. And you're like, well, just get to the point because you're not talking about it now. Oh, my gosh, it was funny. We couldn't stop laughing.
It'll be on YouTube channel, too,
Yeah.
come Monday, so you can watch us.
Go to YouTube, Radio Law Talk YouTube, and just type in pooping, and it'll you can hear the whole segment and watch us live just die laughing.
We did get some comments on the case or no case
the pooping
of it,
case.
the pooping case, and Carolyn commented that she believes that there was no case. I believe that her comment was, this sounds like jogger's bowel syndrome. When nature calls, she has to go, and then she kindly cleans up after herself. No case.
Whoa, no case. Because we do a case or no case, those of you who didn't hear it, and the case or no case was whether or not she should be found liable. This jogger that goes to the bathroom on people's lawns just like a dog does and then cleans up after herself, though. So case or no case. And sure enough, Cal, you said case? I don't remember.
I said case. I think the city's going to charge her. That's my own theory.
And so did Seth. So anyway, we're going to talk about some interesting thing this hour. We're going to talk about Face ID recognition with the new iPhone X. And this is very important, whether or not it violates your Fifth Amendment right to self-incrimination. We're going to talk about Aaron Hernandez, the most updated issues about Aaron Hernandez case, and about the University of Notre Dame's football player that was injured, and they didn't supposedly tell him about his injuries, and he kept playing football. So there's a lawsuit about that. But before we do that, some interesting things that I want to note down. First of all, remember we're talking about general law. Any legal needs you need, seek a licensed attorney or some good counsel from an attorney in your area. Remember, also, we want to thank Laura Pratt. What we do here at Radio Law Talk, those of you who don't know, is we have researchers actually research stuff and all of our issues for each segment, and we pick a law school and we pick a law student. Usually they've got to be minimum of second or third year law student, and Laura Pratt from the University of San Diego Law School did a phenomenal job. Thank you, Laura. The reason we're repeating this because there are some stations that are picking us up live now on the third hour. But thank you, Laura, for the excellent research. And you will be getting our famous Radio Law Talk mug signed by each of us and a $100 scholarship from us. So those of you who want to do it, go ahead and email us at Radio Law Talk. Info at Radio Law Talk is our email. Or tweet us at Radio Law Talk. If you want to call in and talk to us live or have a question, it is 855
Law Radio.
Which is what?
529-7234. So give us a call. Remember, we're not politics. We don't talk about politics. We don't get involved in politics. We just love the law and we talk the law.
That's exactly right. When you're tired of politics radio, tune into Radio Law Talk, and that's why you're here. But you know what? We're not going to laugh too much this time. And I'll tell you what, because we're laughed out. We're just laughed out. And so this one we're going to talk about serious Face ID, but we're going to have some fun with Face ID because you know what? The technology is taking off. And in the first hour, we talked about the new Tesla technology and the cars that are stopping on their own and driving on their own. Again, you can go back to our podcast to listen about that. But this one, we're going to talk about the Face ID of the iPhone X. I thought it was the iPhone 10 until I did my research again, and it says, no, it's an X. But there's big civil liberties issues under the Fifth Amendment, whether or not you can incriminate yourself with your information on your phone. So now if a police officer pulls you over and wants to see what's on your phone, before they'd have to get a password, and that they'd have to get a warrant and have probable cause. Isn't that correct, Todd Cunin?
That is.
And so now the issue is, can they use your face identity? Sure, they'll grab your iPhone and stick it up to your face, and then sure enough, they can get all your information. Do they need a warrant for that, or do they need probable cause? That's the issue under the Fifth Amendment, whether or not it is self-incrimination. And that's what the courts have been talking about, and the courts are discussing.
2 key points. It's an iPhone 10. The X means 10
well, that's
as a
what
Roman
I thought.
numeral. Yeah,
that's what I thought, though.
iPhone 10,
But I looked it up, Cal, and it said X everywhere.
I know, but it's 10. Yeah,
that's what I thought it was 10. I wrote down 10.
And then there's a fix, there's a hack that you can do to stop someone from being able to access your face. If you have an iPhone 10 or X, and you squeeze both buttons on the side when you hand it to the officer, you'd have to rehearse the move, but you squeeze both buttons on the side, it freezes or disables the facial recognition technology, and you can see how long when you set up your phone. So you like the 2 buttons on the side of the phone.
Right.
When you hand him the phone, squeeze them both, give it to the officer, he scans, doesn't do any good.
Just turn it off.
Yeah, or that too. That's
Just
an
turn
option
it off
too.
because my understanding is when it comes back on, you have to put in a passcode before it does facial recognition.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Well, Yeah, the whole idea was, do you need a passcode or do you need facial identification? Before the facial identification, do you need a thumbprint to unlock it? But another hack that I had heard also is pressing the power button on the side 5 times in rapid succession. Interestingly enough, that hack was tweeted out by Edward Snowden, who the United States is still trying to get for all the WikiLeaks stuff that he gave out.
There you go.
He ought to know.
Yeah, that's good authority.
But before we talk about this,
right?
Before we talk about this, probably a good idea. When would the police ever want to get into your phone? And I can think of a couple of instances where they would want to do this in the investigation of a crime. And one is you've been involved in an accident and they want to see if this is a case of distracted driving. Were you texting and driving? By the way, previously in the radio show we talked about the driving a stick shift versus an automatic. Texting and driving could very well be greatly reduced if people just drove stick shift automobiles. Because you got to drive the stick shift, you can't really text. But
no, they'll figure a way. Kids will figure a way how to stick shift drive, and or Uber drivers will.
So one is to see whether or not you have been texting and driving, distracted driving. Another instance is if the officers have reasonable suspicion to think that maybe you are a drug dealer or are involved in the drug trade, and they want to check your text messages to see if you have been, drop me this amount for this price and you've got those. The last area that I have seen when I was a prosecutor specifically is if there's an issue about texting, sending, or receiving inappropriate images from adults to minors and vice versa. Obviously, they would want to get in and check the text messages for those.
So those are some of the reasons why they want to look at it. And there's a couple of issues here. Number one is whether or not a thumbprint, when you can open your phone with thumbprint, whether or not the police can do that, whether or not they can now use your facial identity, whether or not they're able to use your password. And we're going to talk more about that when we come back from the break, about Face ID and the new iPhone X/10, whichever you want to call it. We'll come back on Radio Law Talk. Tweet us at Radio Law Talk.
Or call us at 855-LAW-RADIO.
And we do appreciate you listening to us here at RadioLawTalk.com on the web or on the air. Radio Law Talk is everywhere.
Go to the website, RadioLawTalk.com. You can listen to the show there, and there's a lot of other good information, too. That's RadioLawTalk.com.
We're back talking about facial ID with the iPhone X, here with Todd Cunin and Denise Dirks. It's interesting, there's issues of the Fifth Amendment, whether or not you're self-incriminating yourself by using the facial ID to access your iPhone, especially when it's a police situation where they want to look at your iPhone or the information you have on that iPhone. So it goes down to a couple of issues. Number one, fingerprints. Generally, fingerprints are not protected under the Fifth Amendment. They can take your fingerprint, but the question is, do you have to use your fingerprint? And there's a lot of split decisions on this to get the access to your iPhone. You know how you put your fingerprint down on the iPhone and it'll open up your information. That's been, a debate for a while. And now the question is, with this new ID, facial ID, can the police use that and stick the phone up to your face and open up your iPhone or your phone in order to get the information they want? And by the way, everyone thinks, wow, the iPhone is awesome. It's got this new iPhone 10/X, however you want to call it, that's coming out with this new technology. But 2011, Android had it. Now, the technology might not have been there as well, but they had it. So what are those issues? Now, I turned to Todd because he's a former prosecutor in the district attorney's office, and he's a defense lawyer that, Denise does a lot of estate plan. She does a lot of the family law, and I do personal injury. Tell us about this issue of, what they can or can't get out of your phone, a police officer, and Denise had a good idea. What we should do is basically just turn the phone off the minute the police show up, turn your phone off, because then there's an issue of getting into the phone.
Right. Well, at first, let's talk about what the Fifth Amendment protects.
That's where I was going to
Yeah,
go.
Sure.
I think that needs to be discussed because it protects a person from being compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against themselves. Witness is important, and witnesses do what? They testify, right?
They do.
So the question is this face recognition testimonial? Right? Is it testimony? Your thumb, you don't communicate with your thumb, maybe thumbs up, thumbs down, but it's really not
Hitchhike like Todd
just
does all the time.
testimonial. But your face may be different. Your face conveys emotions. Your face communicates feelings. Your face may be different. No question it's public. The question is it testimonial?
That's true, and so when giving testimonial information, and this concept of testimonial comes up not just with Fifth Amendment cases, it comes up with exceptions to the hearsay rule. I remember, you know what hearsay is. If the light was green, and Fred's a plaintiff in an action, and Fred told me the light was green, but Fred's not available the day of trial, I can't go into trial and say, Fred told me the light was green, and have that be accepted as evidence, because that is hearsay. And then they have all these exceptions to the hearsay rule that allowed it to come in. And in 2005, U.S. Supreme Court decided this case called Crawford, which said a lot of those exceptions don't apply if, in a criminal case, if you're talking about evidence that was supposed to be testimonial, and now testimonial is being applied in a Fifth Amendment context here. And so clearly, if there's a password, okay, or a passcode, your passcode is 5271. All right. Well, that is something that is in your brain that you would then have to tell somebody else, and it becomes immediately testimonial because the courts have talked about, and this was, again, great research on this case, and by our law student Laura. If you have to get it from somebody's thoughts and impressions, and they have to give that out, clearly it's testimonial. So the question is whether or not a thumbprint would be testimonial in that context. And there's a split of authority, but there seems to be this leaning towards the fact that a thumbprint is not testimonial because it's just something that you have. It's not something that comes from the thoughts and impressions of your brain. It's something that that is just attendant to your body. And, criminal histories right now are stored by the Department of Justice, and they don't use your birth date, they don't use your social security number.
Fingerprint.
They store it based upon your fingerprint because it's uniquely identifiable to you.
And all three of us are in the federal database as being attorneys.
That's right,
well.
because we've been fingerprinted at some point in time. And so whether or not a fingerprint constitutes testimonial evidence, it's usually cut against it. So now the question here is, does this facial recognition? Now, to your point, Denise, we have so many expressions that we can go ahead and give with our face, and we can communicate with our face, just facial expressions. We don't communicate with our thumbprint, mind you. But our face can communicate stuff. And so the question here would be, is it testimonial? Now, are they if the facial recognition software, this is just me putting on my speculatory hat, but if the facial software required you to go through a certain gymnastics with your face, like, okay, you have to blink 5 times and raise your eyebrows and then wiggle your nose back and forth and then, move your mouth back around so that it can detect all of that, I think that would be a greater argument that it is testimonial because now you're requiring the face to do something and to communicate something. If the argument is just taking a picture of the face the way that it is and piggybacking on this idea that people have an expectation of privacy in things, and your face is always out in public, that may cut against the argument that your face in and of itself is testimonial.
Well, juries all the time will watch witnesses and watch their face and how they're reacting to testimony, and they make decisions about credibility, a lot of times based upon the face.
That's right, they do. And that's why I think that this issue hasn't really come up to courts. We can't find any case law on facial recognition where the court has said one way or another. We have the split with fingerprints, but not facial recognition. But I think that we will get to that area here soon as more iPhone 10 or X's are purchased, and this becomes an issue to try to get into a phone on the part of law enforcement.
Right. And I guess like Denise said, the nice thing to do is to make sure it's just flat out turned off when an officer shows up. Just not that you're hiding anything, but if you want to protect yourself. So
Well, it's a really important privacy concern as well.
that's exactly right. So we're going to talk more about this after the break. We have a phone call, if we can get to it after the break, about this topic. My name is Frederick Penny. This is Radio Law Talk. Be right back.
Stay with us.
You are listening to RadioLawTalk.com, and we're grateful. You can catch us on the website, Twitter, Facebook, and the telephone. Now let's go back to the show.
We're talking about facial recognition with the new iPhone X. And we have a caller. Kristen is on the line, wants to ask a question about the facial recognition of the iPhone X and the law. Go ahead, Kristen.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hello, Kristen.
So I just have this question. So in terms of the facial recognition, I know that they have now the fingerprint, right? So my husband's ex-wife was in a situation where she was in trouble with the law, and they had to take her phone in order to get evidence to support their claim against her. At first, she denied to allow them access, but in order for them to get access, she had to use her fingerprint to open the phone. At what point can they force her? Well, I guess my question is, can they force her to open up the phone, number one? And number two, what if they were to hack into her phone without her permission? Would that stuff be admissible in court? And my question is, with the facial recognition, would they still need to have I guess maybe a warrant in order to be able to have a potential criminal submit information from their phone to support their case against him or her?
Perfect, Kristen. Thank you for that relevant question. And I think it comes down to probable cause and warrant. But go ahead, Todd. That's your specialty. Go ahead and answer that question.
Yes, again, Kristen, thank you very much. And we were talking about this at the break. There's two issues going on here. One is, at what point do the police have to argue about the ability from a technology standpoint to get into the phone? But that does not occur until they've gotten permission to justify getting into the phone to begin with. And you're absolutely correct that before we talk about whether or not you can force somebody to give a thumbprint or their passcode or facial recognition, the police have to justify the ability to get into the phone begin with under the standard of probable cause, and if the person does not consent to it, they need a warrant. There has to be a warrant in order to justify. The court has to say, based upon what you have told me about this case and the circumstances surrounding it, that the evidence you're seeking is evidence that a crime has occurred, is about to occur, or able to get it, and it's a felony, and all of that. Once the court says you can get it and they issue the warrant, then the police can go and try to get into the phone. And that raises the next question. Okay, can they force the thumbprint? Can they try to hack into the phone some other way? And that's where we get to. Denise, you had a comment.
Well, if the person is taken into custody, then there may not be a warrant necessary. If there's probable cause to arrest that person, then they could probably get into the phone without a warrant.
Okay, hold on. So we have another call. We have a caller.
Kristen's still with us here. I think she want to make sure we get to the end of the story. So
Yeah, I'm still here.
Go ahead, Kristen. I mean, go ahead and finish it for her.
No, that was perfect feedback. I just wanted to know, with the facial recognition, if in Todd's point when he said, sometimes you would have to, maybe raise two eyebrows and wiggle your nose and everything. If somebody was unconscious or something like that, would they be able to get the facial recognition on the phone, whether they had their consent or not?
So in a certain
some sort of
In a circumstance,
go ahead.
where somebody was unconscious, again, the first thing for the officers to get into the phone, they would need to get a warrant to get in because they could not claim that they got consent from the person to get into the phone. So they would need a warrant to get into the phone. We could see this happen in a case where there's an accident and somebody is unconscious as a result of the accident, and the officers are trying to investigate, and there is an argument that that would be exigent, that they need to get it because people can remotely wipe their phone or have somebody else do it for them. So they do need to get into the phone to get that, and that would justify the warrant. What Denise was talking about for the need to, or the ability to
Thanks,
use
Kristen. Appreciate the call.
fingerprint evidence, that applies in large part to running booking. And when somebody is arrested, they book them, they run their fingerprints at the jail so that the arrest can then be hooked up with the charge that they were arrested on. And because there's reasonable suspicion or probable cause to arrest, that is there. But when you go the step further to justify getting into the phone, it's got to be probable cause based, and you'd need a warrant for that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That goes back to the topics you guys discussed when I wasn't here about the nurse in Utah that would not draw the blood when it wasn't even an officer, it was an investigator, tried to force her to do it. That's an issue, too, that the hospitals might have a problem without permission to draw someone's blood.
That's right. That was based upon recent Supreme Court decisions where they say you need a warrant to draw that blood from an individual based upon that probable cause.
Also, in the case of the iPhone 10, it has to have the eyes open in order for the facial recognition to work.
Right.
So if somebody is passed out, they don't. But,
Well, no, yeah. Okay, let's get the toothpicks. Oh, there you go.
Right.
But, this raises an interesting point here, and Fred and I were talking about this on the break, that this facial recognition software may be giving a false sense of increased security for your private, keeping your information private. And I don't know that I agree that having facial recognition software protects you better than having a passcode that you enter in, because as I see the distinction, a passcode that you enter in is what I would call a cognitive security measure, a security measure that's based upon something that you think and you affirmatively have to do. Whereas fingerprint and facial recognition software is security based solely upon a physical attribute. And, if somebody can take a picture of you from 100 yards away using a telephoto lens and then somehow use that to hack your security, whether it's your phone or something else, I don't know that that provides greater security for you than entering a password.
No, and at least one senator has raised serious concerns about your right of privacy with this facial recognition. He asks questions, and this is what concerns him. He says, does it mean that your camera is always on? And if your camera's always on, where is that data going? Who's collecting that data? What are they doing with that data? What third persons have access to that data? Also, does it mean that you no longer have commercial rights to your likeness? It could mean that this public persona thing may limit your rights to your own identity. And it also, the theft of identity theft, that's a huge concern, because if you have your facial out there and that becomes public record, then it could also be part of identity theft.
Well, that's important to, like you said, it's important to maybe just use the old password, digits or code, because that's the simple way, and there's not going to be these issues. But the problem I've found and I worry about is remembering those passcodes. Like, you have people like Cal that anything more than 2 characters, usually he can't remember. Like, his passwords I know are like 1, 2, and a lot of times I hear him saying, "What's that password again?" I said, "It's 1, 2, Cal." XX. And so it's for people like Cal over the age of 50 that need just a simple password. They can't remember, so they need their facial recognition.
And remember, you can change your password, but you can't change your face
or your friends.
Yeah.
I would be very concerned with the facial recognition stuff, of inadvertently unlocking the phone in a scenario like this. You're out jogging. okay, by a house that you pass by all the time and you feel the need to relieve yourself.
A certain urge.
And you do that, and your phone pops out as you're squatting down, and for some reason, that unlocks the facial recognition software.
That would be bum recognition.
That
really.
would be bum.
Yeah.
But if it's no different than your face, and you can unlock the
There's
phone.
some people could be an argument that there's no difference.
Wow. No, that's a thought. I mean, why do your face? Why not do your bum? That would be a lot more private.
It would.
Denise is over there thinking about how to change things. And
Just a
my
minute,
gosh.
officer. Hold on, officer.
Let me open. No, officer, you're with your friends at a party. Hold on, I got to open my phone up.
Yeah.
George, pull this down.
You know what? Can we just wear glasses and a hat and change up the way we look?
That can defeat the software.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that on our next segment about how we can defeat our software, defeat the software, because there are ways that we can defeat the software. And here at Radio Law Talk, we always go the extra mile. And what Todd, Denise, and I have done is we've figured ways, and you're going to be able to see it on our YouTube channel, but we'll talk about it and describe it. We've figured ways to beat the system and make it so a police officer cannot get our identity from our phones with this facial recognition. We have certain things we've developed and discovered. It's absolutely extraordinary. So hang on.
You don't want to miss it.
You don't. We'll be right back with Radio Law Talk.
This is RadioLawTalk.com.
We're back talking about face recognition with the new iPhone 10 and ways now to trick it. And that is to trick the face recognition. And how you can do it is sometimes you can look different. Todd, do a face. Just do something different. Look at, there's Todd's face. Okay. So
it goes in here.
Yeah. Okay. So let's come on in, Seth. We're going to take some pictures of these faces. Because see, change your face, put glasses on, or do something different.
What if you lose weight?
Oh, you lose weight. It could be, but it's not on you if in your face. So what I've done, I thought this was very important. I brought some important face recognition changes here. And so Denise and I, we're going to figure ways to do face recognition changes here. Here I go. Okay,
Heaven help us all.
This is the
That
Huggy.
works, yeah.
This
Fred
is
the
the
butterfly.
Huggy Bear defense.
And the butterfly is perfect, Fred. That's the end. I've never worked through that.
That's a Halloween costume for a child.
And there is a Chinese company, by the way, selling masks that you can wear while you're sleeping, so somebody can't come in and open your eyes and use the facial recognition.
So Radio
to
Law
get to your
Talk
phone.
is helping you out.
Yeah.
If you can just see, and he's going to tweet this.
Have you heard of Madam Butterfly?
Yeah.
So Fred is
Butterfly.
Brother Butterfly.
Yeah, and you can't figure out who I am now, can you?
See, you're on the cutting edge right here. This show is on the cutting edge of how to defeat facial recognition.
Well, let's
Winnie
see.
the
Hold
Pooh,
on.
Uncle Sam.
We're not done.
Denise Dirks
Denise,
is going
here you
for
go.
the Betsy Ross look.
And I love the hat you have, Todd.
There you go.
You like that?
Oh, yeah, I'm telling you.
just rode in from Las Vegas
I don't think you'd use quite that voice with that.
Here you go,
hat.
Todd. Here's your face recognition.
rode in from Las Vegas.
There you go. Thank you.
There we go. And I got the butterfly. Officer, I didn't do it. Go ahead and look on my phone.
Prove it, officer.
Prove it. Here's my phone. Do my facial recognition.
I feel like we're part of the group that was competing with the Village People for the contract and radio record, and we didn't get
We
it.
lost, yes.
Yeah.
So
Here's even a better one, Cal. Wait a minute.
Oh, boy,
Cal,
this is
you
good.
you describe this one because you have to describe. Oh, I'm going to take my mic
Fred's
off.
taking his
I'm
mic
taking
off
my
here
mic
from
off.
me. Let me mute that for you. All right, now Fred has taken off the Winnie the Pooh hat, and he's now putting on, a Fred Penn. This is a standard lawyer mask that he wears during an interview. It's a ski mask, and then a Holstein puppy print ski mask on top of that, cap on top of that.
I
Sounds a
think if
great
you
look.
wear that, you're going to be thought to be a bank robber.
I should wear that. You should wear
Yeah.
that into court, Fred.
That would be actually, with the way the fabric goes there, it makes an X right there across his eyes. He looks like he could almost be a superhero.
I don't think they're going to recognize my face. I don't think.
Very
I
tasteful.
have a
Fred.
question.
Yes.
What if you wear glasses and you wear glasses? I mean, is it going to recognize
Facial
your...
recognition goes from your eyebrows, around your eyes, and basically, I think, to your upper lip, if I've seen the map correctly. I could be wrong. And I'm pretty sure that it can handle glasses.
Look at all the pixie dust I have all over the chair. Look at this. I got pixie dust.
I got it all over.
This show has a big budget. Look at all the costumes Fred rented. This is
Well, the funny thing is he didn't rent them. He just got them out of his closet.
even worse.
No, that is an actual true statement. We have a whole closet full of little costumes from when we were kids, and our little kids were kids. And
Denise, what's the logo on the sunglasses?
Well, it's Sacramento Kings, but I thought at first it was the Amazon defective glasses.
No, that's
checking it out.
No, but yeah, those are for looking at the sun.
These are?
Yeah, that's for looking at the eclipse.
And you just told me that, and I'm gonna hold you strictly liable if I damage.
But anyway, so here at Radio Law Talk, our job is to make sure that not only do you understand and know the law, now you know how to beat the law. And we've taught you through Twitter, Instagram. Go to Twitter, it's Radio Law Talk, and you can see our great disguises, how you can get out of any police officer knowing who you are in the first place. Second of all, they'll probably arrest you just for the way you look, but they'll never be able to do face recognition with the iPhone 10 with that phenomenal guard we just put on, especially
right.
Todd's.
Well, and right now, the person I am thinking about is Laura Pratt, who did our research, because right now she's listening to the show going, I didn't know that segment was coming on.
She's doing a forehead smack right now going, why did I get involved with this show?
Why is my name? No, it's not her. It's the dean of the law school. What is going on over there? They're talking about our law school, and we're tied to this somehow. He's on the phone with the university president. Have our lawyers looked into this one yet? But
trust
anyway.
me, sir, we had no idea.
But let me tell you, this has been excellent work by Laura. We keep bragging about her, but this is fun stuff we've had. I mean, we want to talk about the Aaron Hernandez case. Let's just really briefly talk about the latest with the Aaron Hernandez case. Remember, this is the case where Aaron Hernandez hung himself in jail.
He after being convicted of homicide, and he was a tight end for the Patriots, and obviously he lost his contract, and then there was this question about whether or not they were going to void the contract, and then he was facing trial somewhere else for killing other people.
He was acquitted of 2 murders.
Well,
convicted of 1, appealed it, and then he killed himself.
And that's why he was acquitted. Was because he during the appeal, the law in Massachusetts is if during appeal you die, then it becomes an acquittal. But the development that we have is that after he died, they did an autopsy and looked at his brain, and they found that he had, this guy in his mid to late 20s, had advanced stages of what they call CTE, which is the concussion brain injury. Junior Seau had it, former linebacker for the San Diego Chargers, and he took his own life. Others have had it that experienced onset of dementia and what appears to be Alzheimer's, and they died, and they've proven that this also leads to suicidal impulses and
aggressive behavior, too.
Yes. And they found that Aaron Hernandez had this, and the fiance, a mother of his child, is looking, I believe, either looking at or has already, but intends to have legal action against the Patriots, the NFL, and whatnot.
And here's the interesting thing. Does she have standing? And that's the issue, because it has to be a wife or a family member or a child. So basically her suit, this is an interesting twist how they did it. Her name is Shiana, says that her and her daughter are seeking redress for the loss of parental consortium she has experienced based on the negligent conduct of the defendants and deprived her of the companionship society of her father. She can do that. The child can't. Everyone thinks, how is she suing? No, she's suing on behalf of the child. She is what's called a guardian of the child, or a guardian ad litem of the child. And so she's
suing the Patriots directly.
Right, but she sues as guardian ad litem for the child. And I don't know, I haven't read all the details of the lawsuit. I don't have the lawsuit in front of me, but technically she's just the girlfriend. Even though this is her, they probably live together and this is the child, but I don't know. I don't
and the interesting thing about this is they're suing the Patriots, but this raises the issue. I mean, CTE was something that people had speculated, and those in the concussion industry or that review this had speculated were happening to older NFL stars, NFL players after a lifelong career in the NFL. Well, this guy had only played a couple of years in the NFL and had this, obviously, the advanced stages of CTE, which would, from my perspective, tend to indicate that this was as a result also of a college career and maybe even going back to high school.
Right.
It's from playing football for a long period of time.
And youth football.
Yeah, and
Yes.
let me just, I want to touch on that legal issue. I'm talking California law. Now, I don't know the details of this case, and it's in Boston, apparently, area, but it says she and her daughter are seeking the suit, but in California, it's usually she would be representing the daughter because she really, I don't know how she would have standing. She wasn't married to him, that is the girlfriend, and the daughter has standing, but I don't know how she has standing, and that's the question I don't know how to answer.
The only thing that I could think is that as the mother of the child, if she is entitled to some sort of ongoing spouse or ongoing child support for the child at a certain rate, maybe she could establish some argument that I was entitled to X amount if he made this amount for child support. But you're right. I don't know how she's going to.
I don't know how
get
she
standing.
gets on. I don't know.
It's loss of parental consortium. So the fact that she lost the co-parent and the support of the co-parent and the relationship with the co-parent.
And I get that, but I'm saying in California, good luck.
Yeah, we wouldn't have that, I don't think, here.
Yeah, and I don't know what the laws are back east.
His CTE was so bad, it was like a 67-year-old player.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. Well, great. That's all we can talk about is Hernandez. We got to end with that because Radio Law Talk has run its course. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week for 3 hours with lots of deodorant and a lot of spray around here for the smell.
You have been listening to RadioLawTalk.com, a copyrighted presentation of Radio Law Talk Incorporated.